Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Jenkins, and I want to welcome you to our Bible study of the book of Revelation. I've been thinking about this for some time. I want to thank everyone who has encouraged us to continue doing a Bible study again. I'll talk a little bit about the history of it and also talk about what our plan is to do moving forward now. So before we get started, a couple of things I would like to do. I would like to want to welcome you, first of all, let you know that I'm glad that you are with us today. I want to encourage you to share this with others. Maybe share it on your timeline. People may not want to watch it now, but maybe they'll be able to watch it later. I also want to encourage you to consider letting people know. Some people will watch it later on, and I appreciate you for your interest in this. And I'm going to try to share this on a couple of different feeds real quick. I hope you'll bear with me as I get started. We'll be testing some technology and be doing some other things as well. And so I'm looking, first of all, to make sure here we are on the Jenkins Institute Facebook page. I'm going to share this on my personal news feed if I can. Well, let's see if we can share it on my Facebook page. All right. Well, we'll work on this. We'll share this on other pages as well. Let's see if I can. Just give me just a second here as we get started. I want us to be able to make this available to as many people as possible. Anyway, here we go. Let's see. Okay, we'll see how we do. We can maybe we can share this later with others if it will not allow us to share it now. So the book of Revelation. A lot of people are afraid to study the book of Revelation. Some people don't want to study the book of Revelation. Some people think that it's too difficult to understand. Some people think that it's too complicated. They think that the language is too hard to understand. So for a lot of different reasons, there are people who try to stay away from the book of Revelation. But my prayer is that our time together will be meaningful and that it will be helpful, that it will encourage you in your personal study, and that you'll be able to share this with others. My interest in Revelation literally began 50 years ago this summer. I was 15 years of age, and I heard in a home congregation called Woodlawn Church back then that there was going to be a church that was going to have a study of the book of Revelation through the summer. And the study was being taught by my uncle, Dan Jenkins. And I wanted to know more about Revelation. I had an interest. I wanted to learn more about it. And if I want to be truthful with you, there were a couple of girls who I heard were going to go. And I thought, okay, this will be a good opportunity for me to get to know these young ladies better. And so I went. And in doing that, kind of in a subversive way, maybe, I learned to love the book of Revelation. I learned, and I fell in love with it. And I went back to that class the next summer and the next summer and the next summer. So I had the privilege of studying it under my uncle for about 4 years. And a lot of what I do in teaching the book of Revelation comes from his notes. As a matter of fact, I've got about four or five, I think 4 notebook folders like this, just filled with notes from the book of Revelation. And so over years and years of study, I had the privilege of studying under W.B. West and some other preachers as well. And so I fell in love with it. And my prayer is that through the course of time, as we study, that you will fall in love with the book of Revelation as well. Again, write a note in the comments section. Let us know that you've joined us. Tell us that you're here with us and share this with others. This is going to take a while. This will not be something that we do over a couple of days, but it'll be something that will take a while for us to go through. And so I hope that you'll be patient, and I hope that you'll study as much with us as you can. It's my conviction that the author of the book of Revelation is John. It's the same John who wrote the gospel according to John. He also wrote 3 letters, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. There are people who would disagree with that, but I think this is the John who wrote it. It was probably the closest friend that Jesus ever had while Jesus was on the earth. John was called the disciple who Jesus loved. And a lot of people love the gospel according to John, and they think that that is the easiest of the 4 accounts of the gospel to understand. But if you can understand the Gospel of John and understand 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, why can't you understand the book of Revelation written by the same author? And so I think that should help us to know. The overall theme, our theme for our study is victorious living. I've heard people say the theme is Christians win. We win, other topics like that, but I want us to study under the theme victorious Christian living. And there are 3 key passages in my mind, 3 key passages that we want to notice. The first one is Revelation 2, verse 10, where Jesus is writing to the church at Ephesus, and he says, "Fear none of these things which are about to happen to you." Isn't that a beautiful statement right there? Fear none of these things that are about to happen to you. Behold, the devil will come, will cast some of you into prison, that you'll be tried, that you shall have tribulation, but you be faithful unto death, Jesus said, and I will give you a crown of life. By the way, I'm using the New American Standard Bible. I started using the New American Standard Bible shortly after I started studying the book of Revelation. It's been my go-to Bible for 50 years. I've tried to preach out of other translations through the years. I've tried some of the newer ones, but it's still my favorite. I do most of my preaching and my study out of the New American Standard Bible. The second passage is Revelation 3:21. In Revelation 3:21, Jesus says that if you overcome, to him who overcomes, I will grant to sit with me on my Father's throne, just as I also overcame and sat with my Father on his throne. So Jesus is saying there, if you overcome, you can come over and live with me. And then the third key passage, I believe, is Revelation 11, verse 15. Brother W.B. West said this was the key passage in the study of the book of Revelation. And he said that if you laid the book out, this would be almost the center of the book. The 11th chapter, the middle of the book, verse 15, the middle of verse of chapter 11. So it's almost the middle of the book. And this text says the 7th angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, "The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever." So as you can see, it is a book about victory, a book about Christians who are going through difficult times. And we'll talk about what they were having to deal with during these times. But it is a book about victory. The fact that if we remain faithful to the Lord, if we stay close to him, if we continue to live a victorious life, that we can be victorious not only in this life, but as well in the life to come. The title of the book of Revelation is singular. It is not plural. It's not Revelations with an S on the end. A lot of people put an S on the end. Some of you are school teachers. When I hear somebody put an S on the end of the book of Revelation, it's like you remember back in the old days when you had a chalkboard and you had a teacher who would erase the board, and you had to erase the board, somebody scratching their fingers on that chalkboard. That's what it reminds me of when I hear people put an S on the end of Revelation. It is the revelation of Jesus Christ that God gave, or the angel gave to Christ. He gave it to the angels, who then gave it to John, who gave it to the 7 churches of Asia, and it has been passed down to us in this time, in the year 2024. Aren't we blessed? Depending on when the book was written, the Roman emperor would have been in charge of the Roman Empire, and he would have had control over the Jews. There are different ideas about the dates. We'll talk a little bit about that and who the Roman emperor would have been. It could have been Domitian, who ruled from the year 81 AD to about 96 AD. It could have been Nero, who ruled from 54 AD to 68 AD. It could have been Vespasian, who ruled from 69 to 79, or Titus, 79 to 81. By the way, all of these are Roman rulers. They ruled at different times. Just so I put it out there now, my personal conviction is that it was written during the reign of Nero, and that it has much to say about the destruction of Jerusalem, and we'll talk about that later. And for our study, it will be assumed that this John wrote this letter during the reign of Nero, prior to the destruction of Jerusalem. At the time the book of Revelation was written, regardless of when you believe it was written, Christians were under great persecution. They were under persecution of Rome. They were under whoever the emperor was, whoever was in charge. He didn't like Christians, and he had Christians put to death. It was said of Nero that he had his own mother killed. Nero had one of his wives killed. He had another wife who was with child, and he kicked her in the stomach, and the child died, and the mother died. Nero, it was said, would take Christians and sew them up in animal skins and throw them in the Colosseum for sport and for entertainment, and that the lions would be unleashed and they would eat the Christians alive. It was said that Nero, on occasions, would take Christians and burn them on the side of the roads when he would drive down through the middle of the main street of Rome, and in a parade type fashion. And he would burn Christians on crosses, use their bodies as wick. And I think it's Josephus who says that later on, when he was going to build his palace, he took the ashes of those Christians and built his palace on top to show that he was more powerful than Christianity. The book of Revelation was purposely written in figurative, symbolic language, because the Christians that it was being written to, many of them were in prison. They had seen some of their loved ones put to death, and they would understand the Old Testament symbolism that we'll talk about. They would understand the Old Testament language. It has been suggested that there are more than 250 Old Testament references in the book of Revelation. And so the language, they would understand it, but their Roman captors would not understand it. They would not be able to understand all of the meaning. Unbelievers who read it literally rather than symbolically would not understand the meaning. And so many Christians were able to escape the persecution. Revelation 1 verse 1 says, "The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show his servant things that must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel to the servant John." The word signified means through symbolic language. Signified, it means figurative. It is an idea that expressed that it was done by signs or by symbols. And so, based upon these earlier verses, verse 1 and verse 2 and 3, there are four keys, I believe, to understanding the book of Revelation. And I want to spend just a moment talking about these four keys, because I think if we grasp these, it will help us to have a greater understanding of the book. Number one, it is a revelation. It's not many different revelations. It is a revelation. The revelation of Jesus Christ. The word revelation means an unveiling. It means a revealing. And so this is a revealing of the message that comes from Jesus Christ. Number two, it is a revelation to the seven churches of Asia. That means that it was primarily written to the seven churches of Asia. And in chapter 2 and chapter 3, we have the actual letters that were written to the churches, beginning with Ephesus and Smyrna and Pergamum and so on. And we'll cover each of these letters and talk about the importance of the letters. And I'll even give you an assignment to help you have a greater understanding of those churches back then. And so it was written to the seven churches of Asia. It was not written primarily to the whole world, even though Christians around the world would in time receive the letter. It was not written to to Christians specifically today, even though it has been preserved and passed down for us today. It was written to the 7 churches of Asia: Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. I memorized those years and years ago. I learned them through ESP, and then TSPL. And if you can remember those, that might be of help. Number three, key important lesson in studying the book of Revelation. It is a revelation in signs or symbols. We've already talked about that. Think about some of the signs and symbols just in chapter 1. Chapter 1, verse 12, 7 golden candlesticks. Chapter 1, verse 13, a golden girdle. Chapter 1, verse 15, a voice that sounded like many waters. Chapter 1, verse 16, 7 stars. Chapter 1, verse 20, stars and angels, candlesticks and churches. Over and over again, he is going to use symbolic language. And one of the biggest problems that people have in studying the book of Revelation is wanting to make application of those signs and those symbols and that figurative language for our lives today. And much of that language has nothing to do with our lives today. And it doesn't compute in our age. And so people want to every symbol, they want to make it apply to something in the world today. To every number, they want to make it apply to something literal. But John tells us that these are things that are being signified. The people who read them first would understand. And then number 4, the fourth thing. Number 1, it is a revelation. Number 2, it is a revelation to the 7 churches of Asia. Number 3, it is a revelation in signs. And number 4, it is a revelation concerning things that must shortly take place. Things that must shortly take place. And so these things are about to happen. Revelation chapter 1, verse 1 says, these are things that must shortly come to pass. Revelation 1, verse 3 says, the time is at hand. Revelation 22, verse 6 says, it must shortly be done. Revelation 22, verse 10 says, the time is at hand. And so 2 times in the first chapter, he says these are about things that are going to happen soon. The time is at hand. This is now. This is not 2,000 years or 2,500 years in the future. This is right now. And then the second thing, 2 times in chapter 22, he says they must shortly be done. They must shortly come to pass. These are things that must shortly happen. And so the Bible, there's a word in the Bible that is the word sealed, and it is a figurative language, and it means that something that is closed, that has not been revealed. Some Old Testament prophecies were sealed, so they would not be understood until the appropriate time. For example, Daniel chapter 12, verse 4 says, conceal these words and seal up the book until the end of time. That's Daniel 12, verse 4. The book of Revelation, listen, does not say seal the information in it. And the reason is because these were things that were imminent. They were impending. These were events. These were circumstances that those early Christians in the first century would have understood completely. And it was their life every single day. I don't have to tell you this today, but life can be tough. Events occur in our life. We lose our spouses, we lose our children, we lose our loved ones, we lose our homes, we lose our jobs, we have to move away, we go through broken relationships. That's the way life is. Life is filled with trouble and with difficulty, and that was their life every day. And they wanted something better. They looked for a heavenly home, according to Hebrews chapter 11. We understand what that is like, to have a life that is filled with pain and heartache and sorrow. And the question is, can there be joy in the middle of all this? So the Revelation does not say seal up the book, because this is what they were dealing with right now. Revelation 22 verse 10 says, do not seal the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. Don't cover it up. Open it up. This is to be revealed. This is for now. And so the introduction of the book of Revelation really begins in chapter 1, verse 1, down through about verse 19. And two times in the introduction, he says these are things that are about to happen. Chapter 1, verse 1, chapter 1, verse 3. And at the conclusion of the book, two times he said these are things that are about to happen. Revelation 22, verse 6, and Revelation 22, verse 10. Plus three times in chapter 22, Jesus says, I'm coming soon. Revelation 22, verse 7, Revelation 22, verse 12, Revelation 22, verse 20. The vast majority of the events in the book of Revelation have already happened. And we'll talk about in our next study approaches. We'll look at four different approaches to studying the book of Revelation. And we'll see how that you can combine a couple of the approaches. But the problem is that the vast majority of the religious world looks at it in the wrong way. They're looking for events that will occur now. They're looking for people who are alive now that they read into the book of Revelation. And we'll spend some time talking about that. And if we look at it with these four thoughts in mind, it's a revelation. It's a revelation to the seven churches of Asia. It's a revelation in signs, and it is a revelation about things that must shortly come to pass. Now, I want to encourage you to memorize those four things, because I think they'll help you as we study, as we go throughout our study. I believe that they will be helpful. So, as we said, life is tough. We face difficulties in our life. Events occur, things happen. We go through death, the loss of loved ones, divorce, and the loss of our homes, the loss of our jobs, and broken relationships, and physical pain that we have in our life. And the question is, can there be victory? And the answer from the book of Revelation is an overwhelming yes. He is saying to these Christians, your life can be and your life will be better. If they take your life, you'll be better because you'll go to heaven and you'll be with Jesus, you'll be with the Father, and you'll be with the loved ones who are there. And if they allow you to live, you may suffer, but you can suffer knowing that you're sharing in the sufferings of Christ. The Bible will tell us that. Whenever we go through pain and heartache and suffering in this life, we are sharing in the sufferings of Christ. And if we share in his sufferings, we also will share in his victory. So think about those three verses, Revelation 2:10. Be faithful unto death. That doesn't mean if you live to be 105 years old, you be faithful. It includes that. But what it really means is if you're 35 years old and you have to give your life to Jesus, for Jesus, you be faithful. If you go through the pain and heartache of loss, you be faithful. Don't let Satan steal your joy. Don't let him take away the victory that you have because of Jesus. Look, if you belong to him, he loves you and he wants what is best for you, and he'll take care of you even when life doesn't turn out the way that we want to. So be faithful unto death, and I'll give you a crown of life. We'll talk about that crown in Revelation chapter 4 when we get there. Oh, who knows how long that will be. Remember Revelation 3, verse 21. To him who overcomes sin, overcomes Satan, overcomes death, overcomes the pain and the heartache of this life. To him who overcomes, I will grant to him to sit with me on my Father's throne, just as I overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne. Jesus is our great example of overcoming no matter what happens in life. And then the third, Revelation 11, verse 15, the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdom of our Lord in his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever. So here's the good news based on that passage. If you're a Christian, you're a part of a kingdom that is eternal. You're a part of a kingdom that cannot be destroyed. You're a part of a kingdom that will face persecution and difficulty and pain and heartache in this life. There will be division. There will be loss of relationships. You will face all of that, but that kingdom will never be destroyed. Look, if our country, America, the country in which many of us live, if it stays on the path it's on right now, someday this nation will be destroyed. It'll fall. It's happened to every great nation that has ever existed. And that's why we need to be careful that we're not more, that we don't have greater allegiance to any earthly kingdom than we do to the heavenly kingdom. That is our kingdom, and our king is Jesus. Our king is not some man. Our king is Jesus. and we are a part of an eternal kingdom. He said the gates of Hades will never prevail against it, Matthew 16, verse 18. Daniel said in Daniel chapter 2, Isaiah said in Isaiah chapter 2, that it is a kingdom that will last forever and ever, and it cannot be destroyed. That's the kingdom that we are a part of in this world. And so that kingdom will never be destroyed, and it will overcome all other kingdoms. It will tear, ruin, to put to ruin all other kingdoms. And it is the kingdom that, according to Ephesians chapter 5, that someday will be presented to the Father without spot or without blemish. So is there good news? Oh my, yes. There's wonderful news that we are a part of an eternal kingdom that cannot be destroyed. And that if we remain faithful unto death, he'll give us a crown of life. He'll let us sit on his throne with his Father. What a glorious day that will be. So my prayer for you today, my friend, is that this book will unlock greater joy in your life and in your heart. I want to challenge you to read through the book, and we'll get to chapter 1 and study it at length and at some time. But I want to talk next time about the 4 or 5 approaches to the study of the book. And I want to talk about some historical Old Testament information, and then even some words from Jesus in the book of Matthew concerning the book of Revelation. I look forward to our study. Hope this will be helpful to you. Hope it'll be a blessing to your life. Write a note. Let me know you joined us today. Tell me who you are, where you're from. Share this with others. And I don't know exactly when we're not going to do it every day. My goal is to try to have this study at least once a week. Sometimes we'll do more. But the next time we're together, we'll continue this study. Thank you for being with us today. My prayer is that God will bless you richly in all that you do. And may he take care of you. And may you continually serve him. Thank you so much again for joining me today. And I hope that you have a great rest of the week.